Hold up. Somebody pause the internet for a second. The same blogger Cardi B has been dragging through federal court for 3 straight years just walked into the exact same building that built Wendy Williams and walked out with her name on the dotted line. You all heard me. The woman everybody wrote OFF just got handed the keys to a national empire. And Cardi really thought she had this one in the bag. Bro picked the worst possible week to celebrate. Listen, before I unpack this whole disaster, smash that like button and lock into this channel right now. Because what I'm about to show you, ain't nobody else on this app is willing to say out loud. We do the gray area here. Subscribe. Stay sharp. La Tasha K. Tasha K to the streets, officially inked a partnership deal with Oceanic Tradewinds, the syndication machine run by President Gary Bernstein, announced through the Neighborhood Talk and her own press release this week. The deal was confirmed publicly on her official platforms and reported across HotNewHipHop, Bossip, and the Neighborhood Talk. Cardi B's camp really thought the bankruptcy filings were the closing chapter. Turns out they were the opening credits. Now let's get into the receipts that show exactly why this thing flipped the whole table. Yo, let me read you the actual paperwork, because the wording on this thing is wild when you slow it down. In her own official press release distributed through her platforms and reposted by the Neighborhood Talk this week, Tasha K said, and I quote, "I'm genuinely happy to be partnering with a company I've admired since I came into this business. Rick Party first spotted me on YouTube back in 2017 and took me to Gary, who I met 3 years ago. If it wasn't for Rick, I wouldn't have met or become part of this incredible team. Now, I'm working closely with Gary and Rick, and they are implementing a strong Salesforce team behind me and the brand that my team have built over the last 14 years. This is just the beginning." When I read that last sentence, "this is just the beginning," I had to put my phone down. Bro, that's not a press release line. That's a warning shot wrapped in corporate ribbon. Cardi's lawyers reading this had to feel something flip in their stomach. Then Gary Bernstein himself, the founder and president of Oceanic Tradewinds, dropped his quote in the same announcement. He said, and again, I'm reading it word for word, "Working with Tasha reminds me of when I worked with Wendy and syndicated her. That same star power, that same connection to the people. We are moving aggressively to syndicate Tasha nationally and globally." Nationally and globally. From the mouth of the actual president of the company. On the record. In a press release. Bro said the Wendy comparison out loud and didn't even flinch. That's the dumbest move a critic could make right now. Try to laugh that off. Now the Neighborhood Talk dropped the actual scoop first, and their post laid it out clean. Tasha K signs with Oceanic Tradewinds, the company behind some of the biggest names in urban media, including Wendy Williams, Ricky Smiley, and more details on the first layer of Tasha K's multi-stack syndication deal with Oceanic Tradewinds will be announced in the coming weeks. Multi-stack. Bookmark that word. We coming back to it. Then on her own site, it's TashaK.com. The tour page reads, "Everything is allegedly tour coming soon. 16 cities. 16 cities. The brand is literally the word that her lawyers have been training her to say for 3 years, and she monetized it into a comedy tour. Meanwhile, on the other side of the courthouse, the receipts from Cardi's camp are equally loud. Complex reported it directly. Cheknekebe is accused of engaging in some very complicated business schemes to keep his wife's money out of Cardi B's hands. HotNewHipHop quoted the filings, saying Kebe fraudulently received, concealed, or diverted the couple's assets. And Yahoo Entertainment confirmed, a judge has ordered Tasha K to remove Cardi B-related content, citing non-disparagement violations. The judge also imposed new fines on the blogger. When I saw that contempt ruling drop right before the syndication announcement, yo, I had to rewind the timeline like 3 times. That's where my detective brain kicked all the way in. Cardi's team really thought the contempt was the kill shot. Bro, that was just the bell ringing for round 7. And the corporate side put one more line in the release that nobody's reading carefully enough. They straight up called her fans, the winos, one of the most loyal in entertainment. That's a quote from the corporate partner. On record. About a blogger they just signed mid-lawsuit. You can't say something that bold and expect the opposition to pretend it didn't happen. Now that we got the quotes locked in, let's connect the dots. Here's where it gets crazy, because the timeline on this thing is not random. None of this is random. That press release? It dropped days after the LAW.com a daily business review report on May 27, confirming the bankruptcy court found Kebe in civil contempt and ordered her to scrub Cardi B-related content. Read that again. The contempt order hits the docket, and within a sneeze, the syndication deal lands on every blog in America. That's not coincidence. That's a chess piece getting placed while everybody was staring at the wrong square. That quote about 3 years ago. Do the math, neighbors. 3 years ago, Tasha K was deep in the legal aftermath, allegedly moving accounts overseas, allegedly restructuring through Yellen Entertainment, the company Complex and HotNewHipHop, both linked to her husband Chekna Kebe. So while Cardi's camp was filing motion after motion, Tasha was sitting in boardrooms with the guy who built Wendy Williams' entire syndication empire. That's the part the surface coverage missed. The legal war was the smoke. The boardroom was the fire. That mention of Rick Party scouting her in 2017? Bro, in 2017 most legacy radio executives didn't even know YouTube gossip channels existed. Most agents wouldn't return those creators' calls. For an industry vet of Rick Party's caliber to be paying attention to this lane that early, that's not a casual cosign. That's a multi-year recruitment that just crossed the finish line in 2026. Cardi's team really thought they were fighting one woman. Nah, they were fighting a quiet 8-year infrastructure build. And the Wendy parallel is heavier than people realize. Wendy Williams got chased out of New York radio, got chased out of Philly, was personally going through marriage drama, health drama, public humiliation, and Oceanic syndicated her anyway and turned her into a household empire. The exact same playbook is now being executed on a woman with an active federal judgment, an active bankruptcy proceeding, and a contempt ruling. That's terrible timing for Cardi's leverage strategy. Brew. Any decent advisor would have told her to settle and lock the bag before this announcement hit. Now, the leverage just shifted 3 time zones over. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Now check this out. Nobody's talking about the specific wording in the corporate release. They didn't say syndication deal. They said multi-stack syndication deal. That phrase multi-stack is industry code. In corporate America, multi-stack means the same audience gets monetized across at least 4 to 6 revenue lanes simultaneously: radio, TV, streaming, branded merch, live events, international licensing. They put that word in the first sentence of the rollout. That's not casual. That's the empire blueprint announcing itself out loud. And Cardi's people really skimmed past that word? That's embarrassing strategic awareness. Zoom in on the phrase strong sales force team. That specific language, Salesforce, in syndication speak doesn't mean a couple of ad representatives. It means national-level advertiser relationships. The kind of contracts where 1/4 of revenue dwarfs the original $4 million defamation judgment. So when people in the comments ask, can Tasha pay Cardi back fast? That one phrase is the answer. That phrase tells you the cash flow is being engineered to exist. If Cardi's lawyers had half a forensic eye, they would have caught that 2-word red flag and adjusted their entire negotiating posture. Now look at the literal name. Everything is allegedly tool. Forensically, that title is a legal fortress. Every comedian who's been sued for defamation in the last decade tells you the same thing. The word allegedly is the magic word your lawyers want you to say 1,000 times a day. She didn't just survive the lawsuit. She branded the survival into a touring product. That's a woman who turned her trauma into her trademark. And Cardi's team really thought sanctions and fines were going to embarrass her into silence? Nah. Brew. She literally printed the courtroom language onto merch. Now the freeze frame moment nobody is talking about. Look at who is conspicuously not named in the release. No legacy black-owned radio network. No iHeart. No Odyssey. No major label media arm. It's an independent syndicator, led by a veteran exec, that does not have to clear corporate compliance through people who are friends with Cardi's industry circle. That's a clean lane. That's a lane where industry political pressure cannot easily reach. And if Cardi's camp was hoping back-channel industry calls could quietly suffocate this thing, that door just closed. Hard. The people who passed on Tasha for the last 3 years didn't realize they were giving a competitor a clean shot at the whole category. Now let's see how the media covered this. The neighborhood talk framed it as celebratory and historic, dropping the scoop with neighbors, get in here for this, energy, treating it as a milestone moment in independent media. They leaned hard into the Wendy Williams comparison, without flinching. Complex and HotNewHipHop, outlets that have spent 3 years framing Tasha K through the lens of the Cardi B litigation, went a different direction. They've kept their narrative focused on the asset-hiding lawsuit against Kebe and the alleged Yellen Entertainment shenanigans, treating the legal jeopardy as the dominant story. Their framing barely acknowledges the syndication signal. They are still selling the blogger in trouble angle. Yahoo Entertainment and MSN, working from the LAW.com and bankruptcy court reporting, leaned into the contempt and the $3.9 million figure Cardi's team is seeking. Their spin. She's still losing. But those framings completely ignore the multi-stack revenue layer that just got introduced into the equation. Reference the timeline we already unpacked. Those rulings landed before the corporate machine was publicly attached. The math changes when the machine clicks on. Bossip went in the middle. They covered the husband lawsuit through the $4 million scheme lens, but they didn't connect it to the new syndication leverage either. Some of Cardi's defenders in comment sections are saying this whole syndication thing is cap. It's PR fluff. It won't actually produce anything. But those are the same people who said the bankruptcy filing was the funeral. They keep being wrong, and they keep posting like they are winning. The media trying to spin this for Cardi's narrative is reaching. The receipts don't lie, and the corporate side put their president's name on a quote about national and global rollout. You don't put your company president's name on a press release for a deal that isn't already moving. But here's what nobody is saying. Something about this whole story feels OFF to the mainstream coverage, and I think I know why. Nobody is willing to sit with the truth I'm about to say. This isn't a hip-hop beef story. This isn't even really a Cardi versus Tasha story anymore. This is the moment the entire syndication industry quietly admitted that the gossip commentary lane is the new primetime television. And the legacy black media gatekeepers who spent the last 3 years passing on Tasha because she was too messy or too risky just got publicly outflanked by a competitor who saw the audience numbers and didn't blink. That's the forbidden take. The industry just voted with money, and the vote went against the people who were supposed to be in charge. Think about it like this. For a decade, the gatekeepers told independent black creators the same script. Your tone is too aggressive. Your content is too messy. Your audience isn't advertiser friendly. Come back when you clean it up. Every single one of those gatekeepers had a chance to sign Tasha K. They all passed. They all said no. And now they are going to spend the next 12 months watching a competitor turn the woman they rejected into a national brand. Those executives are puppets of an outdated worldview, and their irrelevance is about to be receipts they can't dispute. And here's the part that's gonna sting. The Cardi B litigation, as ugly as it's been, accidentally built Tasha K's brand value. Every headline, every motion, every contempt ruling, every she's finished prediction added zeros to her audience loyalty number. Her winos didn't leave during the lawsuit. They multiplied during the lawsuit. That's the metric Oceanic Tradewinds saw on the spreadsheet. That's why they signed her knowing about the contempt order. Cardi's legal team isn't playing chess against Tasha. They were unknowingly running the marketing campaign that made her signable. That's a tragic level of strategic backfire. Whoever advised Cardi to make this a public war instead of a quiet settlement 5 years ago needs to lose their job today. Now here's the part that's gonna upset some of y'all. The real losers in this story aren't even Cardi. Cardi B is fine. Cardi is rich. Cardi just dropped music. Cardi just finished a tour. Cardi has a Stefon Diggs situation, an Offset situation, and a brand new baby. Cardi's life is not getting smaller because Tasha K got a syndication deal. Cardi is operating in a completely different stratosphere. The real losers are the audience members who built their entire personality around Tasha K's downfall. The bloggers with the funeral playlists queued up. The Twitter accounts whose entire engagement model was Tasha is finished. Those people are sitting in their group chats right now in shock, watching the woman they buried 100 times sign the biggest deal of her career. Their identity was wrong. Their predictions were wrong. Their entire framework collapsed in one Tuesday press release. And the silence from those accounts today is loud. The scary part, the part nobody wants to sit with, is what this means for every other major figure Tasha has ever discussed on her platform. Because if she has a national radio show and a global syndication push, every controversial commentary she makes from this point forward reaches 100 times the audience it did last week. Every artist she's ever questioned, every celebrity who's ever DM'd her in anger, every label that's ever wanted her muted, they all just lost the silence button. Permanently. That's the chess move nobody's named out loud yet. The lawsuit was an attempt to remove a microphone. The result was the microphone became a megaphone. And that's the truth they won't tell you on the surface coverage. The story isn't about who won the courtroom. The story is about who controls the next 10 years of black independent media. And the answer just got named in writing. The clues were there the whole time. We just weren't ready to read them out loud. Watch the next move carefully, because the next 90 days are about to rearrange the entire conversation. Path 1, the collapse path. When Tasha K's first big syndicated rollout drops and the cash flow officially turns on, Cardi B's legal leverage doesn't disappear. It inverts. The pressure shifts from can she pay to what does she do with the money. Cardi's camp is gonna find themselves negotiating against a defendant with cash flow, with corporate backing, and with lawyers who can finally afford to fight back on equal footing. The bankruptcy strategy that was supposed to be the kill shot? It's about to become the contract that funded the comeback. Cardi's advisors who pushed the destruction angle instead of taking a settlement are going to look completely outmatched within 12 months. They picked the fight that built their opponent's empire. That's the kind of L that doesn't wash off. Path 2, the silent war path. This is the path I'm watching closest. If Cardi B's camp doesn't respond publicly within the next 2 weeks, mark my words, something heavier is being prepped in the background. Allegedly, there's chatter that broader legal pressure is being explored. New motions, asset freezes, regulatory inquiries into the bankruptcy paperwork. The moment Tasha K's money starts moving at corporate scale, every agency that wasn't looking suddenly has a reason to look. That cuts both ways. It could create new vulnerabilities. It could also expose if anybody on the opposing side was allegedly using unofficial channels to apply pressure. Both stories are possible. Both stories are going to come out within the next year. And whoever loses that exposure round is gonna wish they'd just taken the settlement. Path 3, the culture shift path. The scary part isn't even the personal drama. The scary part is what happens to every other major celebrity who has unresolved beef with Tasha K when she suddenly has a national radio platform. Every artist who's ever been on the receiving end of one of her commentary segments just lost the option of waiting her out. Wait till the first major show format drops and a controversial guest is announced. That's when the rest of the industry realizes the rules just changed. The artists who quietly rooted against her are about to be sitting in green rooms hoping she doesn't open her show with their name. That's an entire ecosystem of careers that just got nervous. And the ones who try to attach themselves to her publicly in the next 30 days, sliding in DMs, suddenly remembering her name. Yeah, we got the list. We're keeping notes. We'll be reading it back on camera in 6 months. Here's what to watch for specifically. Does Oceanic Tradewinds announce the first show format within the next 2 weeks? Does Tasha go on a podcast media run? Does any major black radio network suddenly try to counter-program against her? Does Cardi's team file something new before the first show airs? Each of those signals tells you a different chapter of where this thing is heading. Read the boardroom door, not just the courtroom door. That's the lane the real action is happening in now. Whatever happens, one thing's clear. The people who bet on this woman's downfall already lost. The only question left is how loud the loss gets. If you made it this far, you're a real one, and you already know what time it is. Drop your theory in the comments, money or destruction. Does Cardi take the check or chase the career? Who do you think Tasha books first on her syndicated show? Tag somebody who needs to see this before the next twist drops. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because the next time we talk, something else will have already happened. That's how this story moves now. Every week is a new piece. Every piece is a bigger move. And whoever was preying on this woman's downfall, you need to find a new deity, because this one ain't answering today. And by the way, tomorrow we're dropping something wild about who's allegedly in talks to be on Tasha K's first syndicated panel. Some of these names are gonna break the internet. You do not want to miss that. We out.